is to be reminded who are the people at home that you missed and loved completely. And it was heartbreaking. You're listening to the calls, and people are trying to stay calm. Hey, our plane just got hijacked, or this building is burning down, but I just wanted to call and I just wanted to tell you I love you so much. I love you, I love you, I love you. There was no hate, there was no bitterness, it was to love. And the human soul was made to love and to be at home with one another. And I bring that up because last week I spoke about sin and the effect of sin. That sin does one thing, it separates us from one another and from God. It separates you from everything that you hold dear. And that's why sin is so destructive in your life. It's not there to take away your happiness, your joy. Sin is there to separate you from God and to separate you from one another. The relationships you have now between spouse, husband and wife, between kids and parents, when there is an offense, what does sin do? It separates. It creates a barrier. It pushes you apart. It causes you to mistrust and to doubt the character of the person that you are in a relationship with. And that's why Genesis is so important. That when you understand that when offense occurred, God had to lay some boundaries. And the place that Adam and Eve called home, they were exiled from it. They were rejected and said, this can no longer be your home. God, within the Trinity, had this conversation in Genesis chapter 3. We can't let them stay here and have access to the tree of life, or else they'll live forever. God had to deal with sin by banishing them from the garden. And because of sin, they were excommunicated. They could no longer come into the presence of God. See, the garden was not, that home space was not about what they had access to in terms of things. It was having no access to the presence of God. That was the ultimate punishment for Adam and Eve. Imagine, they're walking with God in the cool of the day, walking together. They were naked and unashamed. They were open and vulnerable both to God and to one another. They had no reason to hide from each other. But sin comes in, and it broke apart that marriage. It broke apart their relationship with God. And it broke apart their relationship to the earth. The curse was now that Adam had to work the land. The curse was now that Eve had to endure punishment through the agony of childbirth, through labor. And that's what sin does. It makes your life harder. It breaks up your relationships. And everything that you hold dear is thrown into great perversion and pain. And this is all in a world where God created and said it was good. God created and said it was good. And at the very end, after creating humanity, he says it was very good. And even God is the one who decides what is good, not us. Even when he looked at Adam, he made him name the animals and steward the earth. And even looking at Adam, he said, it is not good for man to be alone. And I know a lot of you use that against me for being alone, but this is about Adam and humanity not being lonely. Okay? This is about God saying humanity must be a community. And so he creates a helper for Adam, Eve. That's a powerful thing. And that was home, that was community, that was what was the most valuable to them. And they lived in that perfect relationship with one another. Imagine that. If he, being so comfortable with one another, no shame. Imagine a world with no guilt. Imagine a world with no unforgiveness because no one offended one another. That's too hard to imagine, but it did exist. And all that to say that everything that we feel now is us trying to get back to the garden, to find home with one another and with God. Do you ever feel like you might be surrounded by a lot of friends, but you still feel alone? Do you ever feel like you're disconnected, even though you're having fun, or the people that you care about the most are around you and near, but you feel alone? And that's an epidemic across the whole entirety of humanity, that we are so alone, even though we're surrounded by a population that's greater than any other time in human history. This world is crowded, but yet we've never felt so more isolated than now. And devices really don't help. Social media doesn't help. We're feeling more and more alone, and you hear stories of suicide and depression. And that's a symptom of the fact that ever since sin entered into the world, we've been disconnected from one another. The shalom of God has been violated. Shalom meaning peace on the level, multi-layered levels, where God is sovereign, in control, and we are connected with one another, and we are connected with ourselves, our identity, and we are connected to God. All of that has been violated and perverted to the point that we feel isolated, and that's why so many symptoms of mental illnesses and physical disease ravage throughout all of the history of humanity, is because sin entered in and disconnected us. We were exiled from Eden, and now we've been exiled from one another. I mean, this is a heavy topic, a really heavy topic, because home is a real heavy topic. You talk about home to anybody, and whether it's happy memories or traumatic memories, it's heavy. It's so meaningful, it's so profound, it's so traumatic. Just, I know I've shared this story before, but dropping off one of our youth one time after a Friday night, and this kid did not want to go home because he was talking on the phone with his father, who blew the whole week's pay already at the Pokies. And here's this 13-year-old boy getting angry over the phone, telling his dad off, the kid being more of an adult than the adult. And this kid did not want to go home because he knew home was an ugly place of broken trust, of broken relationship, of disappointment, of hurt, pain, trauma, and home was the last place he wanted to go, because home was not home. The times you feel alone, the times that you long for something more, tells you that there's gotta be a home, there's gotta be a place. And I think that's within all of humanity's DNA, that even though we were not at the garden, we feel the effects of that. We feel, man, every time there's injustice in the world, every time you see something that is wrong, there's something within the human spirit that says, there's gotta be something better than this. This hurts so much to witness. Is there a God? Does he care? Is this all we have? Because it's a living hell sometimes, this world that we live in. And we're so isolated from one another. And that's the power of sin that over our life. It separates us. It causes you to break apart from those that you love most dearly. When Genesis 3 happened, the fall of humanity, what it's really about, not just the rebellion of Adam and Eve against God, but it was about sin being the lack of trust in God to provide the good. God provides good in your life. And the moment that Eve said, I'm going to partake of this fruit because Scripture says that she saw it was good to eat. She became the judge of what was good, no longer God. The moment we choose to become the standard of morality of what is right and wrong in this world is when sin enters in and breaks apart. It fragments our reality to the point that we are so lost. But the moment we say, God, you're a good God and you created this universe and you define what is good for me. What Eve thought was good for her, God's like, that's causing you death. There might be things in your life you're holding on to stubbornly. And God's like, let go of that. That's killing you. That's hurting you. Your destiny, your impact, your influence in this world is diminishing because You won't let go of something that God says, that's going to kill you. This auto rotating terrible. There's this author, British thinker, by the name of Julian Barnes, who wrestles with mortality as an atheist. And he's trying to find language to deal with death, and he wrote this memoir, Meditations on Struggling with Death. And at the start, he says, I don't believe in God, but I miss him. Think about that. This atheist saying, I don't believe in God, but there's something in him that says, I miss him. He knows there's something missing in their life. I mean, who else are you going to give thanks to? Who else is there to have oversight and provision and protection over your life if you don't ascribe to someone greater than yourself? And this atheist understood that. I don't think he fully understood it. He was voicing a truth that he couldn't understand. And that's the effect of sin, that it blinds us to the reality of God. If you have your Bibles, I want to turn to Psalm chapter 90. Psalm chapter 90, verses 1 and 2. There's a beautiful piece of poetry. This is Moses speaking. He says, Lord, you have been a dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world. From everlasting to everlasting, you are God. This is Moses talking about the understanding that God is his dwelling place. God is his home. God is the one who from everlasting to everlasting, from generation to generation, has been home base for him. The story that Moses finds himself in is enslaved people. So of course they didn't know what home was because they've been under the rule of an empire that enslaved them to work till they died. And even though he'd never seen freedom up to that point, Moses knew, God, you have been our dwelling place. And that's a powerful thing as people of faith that we have, that even though we do not feel at home wherever we're at times, to understand that God is our dwelling place. That if we make God our home, then we can be at peace. That our soul finds its rest in God. There's this monk, St. Augustine of Hippo, he said, Thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord. And our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee. Thank you, Siri. Or Ciro. This is St. Augustine of Hippo. I want to read it again. Thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee. He's saying that your heart is going to be in turmoil until you rest in the Lord. And that's something that we, as followers of Jesus, find. We have this peace that Jesus says goes beyond human understanding. We have a peace that unless we find our rest in God, we will be restless. This is what Moses understood, that God is our dwelling place from generation to generation. God is home. In Luke chapter 15, there's the story of the prodigal son. You guys remember that? And in verse 17 of that chapter, it says that he came to his senses and he's like, if I could just go back home and not even be a son, just be a slave, even I'll have better food than what these pigs eat. The slaves at home, they're better fed than I am here with the pigs. And it's until you come to that realization, that understanding to your senses to say, my home is in God. I will be nourished, I will be fed, I will be welcomed. And when the son gets home, one of the most joyful pictures Jesus paints, that even though the son was in the distance, what did the father do? He ran out to the son and he puts a robe on the son. And then he puts a ring on the son to signify his stature is still a son. He gives him kisses and gives him hugs. And he welcomes him home and says, this is where you've always been. This is where you belong. And that's the picture that God paints for you. That even in the garden, that even though there was sin, what did God do? He pursued, he looked for, he searched for Adam and Eve. Where are you? Not only did he chase after them, but he covered them because there was shame, there was guilt. And that's a place we can call home. That even though we deserve judgment, God is still saying, you still belong here. Just because you messed up doesn't mean you're no longer part of this house. I mean, what if you parents did that to your kids? You messed up, you're out of here. No. If I know you parents well enough, you guys forgive. And you correct and you instruct and you love and you remind the child how much they're loved, that they're your son, they're your daughter. And that's what God does for us. He reminds us that this is home and God's going to pursue you. And even though you're far away, he's chasing, he's just running so hard after you. In the same way, I love just talking about Genesis. I love talking about Revelation in chapter 21. You have your Bibles. Revelation chapter 21, verses 3 and 4. Revelation 21, verses 3 and 4. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. That's the end goal. God wants to make his dwelling place in us. God's not trying to take us to a faraway land. God is trying to come down to us, which he initially does in Christ. And that redemption plan is unfolding right before our eyes if we're perceiving it. But the end game is God descends from his throne and lives within his people. He wants to make you his home. Can you imagine that? God lives with us. God walked with us. God talked with us. He wants to go back to how it was in the garden. No shame, no guilt. Completely vulnerable to one another. And God lives with us. That's the whole story. I mean, if you take out sin, it would be the serpent comes in and tempts Eve. You should partake of that fruit. Did God really say that? You should be like God, knowing good and evil. Eve should have said, but I'm already like God. I'm made in his image. And that's the end of the story. That would be amazing. But there's this part of human free will that tries to do it our own way. And that's our story. That whenever we try to do it our way, we stray away from what home is. We stray away from the original intention of God. And that's to walk with God. To walk with one another with no shame, with no separation, with no evil lurking within our relationships. Even though as a church, I work when we're close. I work when we know each other pretty well, but there's still gaps that cause us to doubt one another. There are moments that we second guess one another. But God's goal is to reconcile us so that we never have to doubt one another. We never have to assume the worst of one another. When God reconciles us back together, and when God makes his dwelling place in his people, then home is fully realized. Home is the prize. Home is what we do whenever we come together. Home is what happens when people who do not know Jesus walk into Living Bread Ministries. Last Sunday, home is creating a beautiful space of different expressions in art and people walking in, paying some money, and that helped. But the feedback is, wow, that was amazing. And we get to do that whenever we gather as a church. We get to do that every growth group. We get to do that every meal that we pray in Jesus' name. We get to do that every time We connect with a young person in Mount Druitt. You get to do that every time you move with the Spirit of God. You get to say, I've tasted what home is like. Now I want to be a foretaste of glory divine. I want to be the appetizer that when people encounter me, they encounter a God who wants to give himself as a home for humanity. We live in Mount Druitt, people, and we're speaking it to be a home. You know how counterintuitive that is? So many people are trying to get out of here, but God's trying to get in here. A lot of churches don't want to plant churches in Mount Druitt, but we want to plant churches here. We want to gather people in the name of the Lord because they're looking for a home. They're dying for a home. They're killing themselves. They're over-medicating. They're drugging up. They're drinking up. They're blowing all of their savings on futile things because they're looking for home. They're looking for a relationship. They're looking for people who care. They're looking for a God. And if he's real. And we get to show people God is real in our lives. We get to show people we've found home in Jesus, and they are welcome to join a community that loves them. Family, when I came up with that This Is Home thought, that was like a month and a half ago. 2 months ago, I did not have a name for the concert. And I was like, okay, it'll come. And when that thought came to me, This Is Home, I ran it by Zach, and I go, Zach came up with this thought, can we rebrand it? And we did. And as we were serving and putting on that show, that concert, I think there's something else happening within our souls. There's a healing work happening, that when we understand that home is relationships, home is community, home is where God walks with his people, where God walks with us. That's what we're offering. We're not giving people a show. We're giving people a place to call home. It's not something cute. It's something that's restorative down on a soul level. Because we too were orphans. We too did not have a place to call home. But the moment we encountered this God who was madly in love with us, he said, this is it. This is the greatest thing my soul could ever want or need. Family, we get to do this. We get to call this home, and we get to bring people into home. Home is not a place that we selfishly keep to ourselves. A home is thriving when more families are added. When new life, when birth happens, homes are so filled with joy, right? You get a dysfunctional family, someone gives birth, even though it's not the best circumstances, oh my gosh, everyone is in love with that baby. Yeah? I mean, you grandparents, you can't have enough apples, right? You want more. You're telling your kids, hurry up. I'm going to die soon. Give me 10 more. Right? And I think as a church, we have to have that mindset that this is not a place that we are selfish with. We want more new life. We want to create a home that new believers find, and they grow up, and they thrive, and they create homes for others. Family, we can't be selfish with this gathering. We got to understand that we've been welcomed into this home, and now we must be that welcoming party for others to join in this home with us. Amen? Amen. That's all. Dear God, I want to thank you for entrusting us, God.